Hello, welcome to the Kerbal Space Program #1 tutorial, Getting to Orbit. Now what we're going to do, get into the Vehicle Assembly Building, or the VAB, or the VAB actually, and then we're going to click this little tiny capsule. Now this is going to be a tiny rocket. You don't want to get this big boy, because it's just too much fuel. We're building simple, small rockets that are going to be nice and easy to maneuver. So we get this little tiny heat shield, the 1.25 meter. I don't want to forget our parachute, the Mark 16. I must have said that. And then we're going to get the TD12 coupler and then put that under the heat shield. Now what we're going to do is go to fuel tanks. And you see all these fuel tanks and you're like, where are all these fuel tanks? They're scary. I don't know this. Don't worry. We're building a 1.25 meter rocket, so we only need the 1.25 meter diameter fuel tanks, which would only be these four. Now they're not categorized perfectly, but they are categorized somewhat. Now these are the connector ones for different sizes, so if I want to collect this size to a bigger size, like a rocket like this, which is not what we're doing today, but if I were making a really big rocket, that's what I would do. But right now, we're just focusing on these four. So we're going to get that Terrier engine. Now it's a little tiny baby engine with not a lot of thrust. You can see very, very small amount of thrust, only 14 kilonewtons. Now, you might be thinking, well, how am I going to get off the ground with this thing? Well, you see, when we get up into space, there's less air resistance, and we don't have to deal with the atmosphere constantly pushing us down. So we don't need that much thrust. So if we press this delta V marker and then click vacuum, you can see that everything goes up by a crap load. It goes from 500 to 2,400 meters a second of fuel, which is just insane how much fuel that difference is right there. So we're going to focus on sea level though. This is a vacuum efficient engine. Different engines are vacuum efficient. Example of a vacuum efficient engine would be the Poodle engine, the atomic meter rocket thing, the Wolfhound, those, and then most importantly, the Terrier. Those are good rockets for when you're in space. But now we're going to build the booster stage, or the stage that is going to take us really high so that this engine can burn efficiently. So we're going to get the FLT800 fuel tank, or the biggest one for the 1.25 meter size. We're going to get the swivel engine, which is a nice engine, and you might be thinking, well, the Reliant engine is bigger and it has more thrust, so why don't I want to use that? Well, the reason why is because this engine can gimbal, which means that it can move side to side, left and right and whatnot, so it's really great for small rockets. The Reliant engine cannot gimbal, so if I were to put that under there, it'd be super big and I'd have a lot of thrust, but the only problem is that it can't gimbal, so it's not very good. So you're going to want to take this little tiny winglet with a basic fin. You're going to press C, so then toggle snap so that it's nice and straight. And then press X 3 times. And then the fins keep it nice and stable while it's in flight. And then we have a fully assembled rocket. This thing can get us to space, nonetheless orbit. Now, in real life, Earth is much bigger than Kerbal in the Kerbal Space Program, and we would need a much bigger rocket to deliver this payload into orbit. But in Kerbal Space Program, the Earth is smaller, or it's called Kerbal, so we don't really need to worry about the size. And there's the Mun over there. So we're going to press Z to get full thrust, and SAS for stability assist, which keeps the rocket nice and stable automatically. We're going to press Z, make sure full thrust, yep. That staging is correct. So this launches, that decouples, that launches, that decouples. Perfect. So everything is great. We are go for launch. Press space. And there you go. We're going up. Nothing has exploded yet, so we're doing great. I'm going to start picking up quite a lot of speed. And we're going to start turning to the right a little bit because the Earth rotates, and what we're going to be doing is we're going to be basically taking advantage of that fact and using the velocity that the Earth has built up and the speed at which it rotates and kind of use that as like a launching platform and helps us gain extra speed. So we're gonna get to this marker right here where it says 90. That's a good 45-degree angle, and it gets us nice on a vertical and horizontal launch margin. We're gonna go just a little bit more than that, and we're gonna decouple that stage with space, and then launch a new stage. And then this tiny rocket engine, or the Terrier, is now launching super duper fast because we're super high up, and it's burning super efficiently because it's designed to burn in space, or almost space. There's basically no atmosphere, so you see here, you move over the pilot, it says EVA, extra vehicular activity is what that stands for. And you don't want to do that because that'll make her leave the rocket and she'll go flying off. So we're reaching 40,000 meters, and we're going to rotate exactly all the way to the right at a 90-degree angle. I clicked the maneuver node to see what my apoapsis is, or the highest point in the orbit, and it's at 65,000 kilometers, which is almost in space. Space exactly starts at 70,000 kilometers on Kerbal. In real life, it's at 110,000 kilometers. So we're going to click M, or click toggle map. We're going to see it's perfectly in line. And we're going to start building up space. You can see some of my other space stations, refueling station and whatnot. Okay, and 80,000. We're aiming for an orbit of about 80,000. So what we're going to do is we're going to warp to exactly at the apoapsis, or the highest point in the orbit. When you're in the atmosphere, it allows you to only do 4 times warp because it's, well, really hard to do really fast warping in the atmosphere because it has to simulate atmospheric conditions. And we're now in space. You're gonna see the camera angle change. You're gonna hear the music. Oh, look at that wonderful music. We have a minute until we reach the apoapsis. Now we can warp there, but I'm gonna take the time to explain stuff. And that is stability assist. So stability assist keeps the rocket straight. You can move it up and down, but it burns electric charge. Now this rocket, the capsule comes with enough electric charge. We don't need it. But if we're going to the moon, we would need to bring solar panels to recharge that, because over time, we'd slowly start to run out of electricity after using all of it. Prograde is basically, it's going to point the rocket in the exact direction that it is aiming. Retrograde, it's going to point the rocket at the exact opposite direction of where we're supposed to be burning. And then normal, and then radial out and such, that's really not necessary. You only really need to use it when you go to Mars, not even to go to the moon, because you just need to burn prograde to get to the moon. But we're not going to talk about that now, because that is very far down the game. Here we have a nice amount of speed going for us. We have, what, 5 seconds? Okay, let's just start the burn right now. Press Z, burn prograde. And we're going to see that the apoapsis isn't changing much, but the periapsis, which is the lowest point in the orbit, is changing at a crazy high speed. So we're going to press M one more time, or click map mode. You're going to see that circle make it bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and stop. And then we're going to wait for this to get it at a nice amount. And there we go. We're in orbit. And that is how you get to orbit in Kerbal Space Program.